I like the challenge of not having information on stuff. I like figuring it out for myself. I think the thing that changes with me is I'm not really afraid to fail.
Okay.
It's I've the reason I got good at painting and stuff. I messed up a lot, and if you talk to a painter or a body man that does anything for a living like that, if they say they never screwed up, they're lying.
Welcome to the Next Big Flip podcast, where it's not just about flipping for profit, but flipping for purpose. I'm your host, Lawan Diggs, author of The Craigslist Hustle and 20 Years of Flipper. Whether it's furniture, fashion, or just your mindset, we're here to help you take what you have and make it work. From everyday hustlers to unexpected side gigs, you'll hear real stories, real strategies, and maybe even find your next big flip. The one that gets you to your next moment. The next big flip. Let's get it. So on his TikTok page, it reads, apparently I'm the fridge guy. And then on his YouTube, it says, welcome to my hobby, vintage refrigerator restoration. Now, Cody, does that pretty much sum you up for this season of your life?
For my life, it's kind of a wild ride. That is my hobby for sure. Sometimes it feels like a job, but it's nice that your hobby would actually make you money to somehow get ahead of the game and keep you going in the hobby. So
yeah, that's so true. When I tell you, as when I found you and I'm going through your TikTok page and I'm seeing a lot of these custom, restorations, you're doing refrigerators and you also do paint jobs and stuff. I said, let me reach out to this guy and see if he'll be willing to do a podcast. And when you responded right away, when I tell you, I was like, thank you. Cause I'm excited just to hear, tell us about yourself and what got you started into reselling specifically vintage refrigerators.
Well, the refrigerator thing kind of started around 2018. My wife and I had just gotten married in 2015, and we had a house where I had an old refrigerator in it, and it was a 1951, I believe. I still have it to this day. I didn't get rid of my first one, but it was a GE, and I lived there roughly 6 years and never plugged it in. And I always thought it was an interesting thing, but I've always heard the stories behind it, like they suck power or they're inefficient and you probably shouldn't mess with it or just stuff like that. I mean, everybody's got a story for them or an excuse not to have them or to go buy something modern. And at the time we were trying to get rid of our house and I was supposed to move it. Well, I had plugged it in and the thing actually ran. Never even touched it. And from 1951, and it sat in that spot that we had it there for what I would think would be his entire life. And I felt, man, this thing's lived through like 3 wars. Why would you get rid of it? It works just fine. So I took it and kept it, and that's kind of what sparked it to go into something. The reason why it actually took off the way it did is I saved that for a rainy day and something to practice on. Because if you get into doing like restoration stuff on the paint level things from cars and stuff, it's always good to have something to practice on, something small that's easy to move around. Well, they're not exactly easy to move. They're like between 300 and 500 pounds, some of them. But it is small enough that if something were to happen, you could just sand it off and redo it. But COVID hit and I needed to do something. And instead of picking somebody else's junk, I just had that laying around and I threw race stripes on it, just painted it whatever I had left laying around, and there it was. And threw it online for a little bit just to see what would happen on my Facebook page at the time, and it went nuts. And I had other people asking how to purchase one or if I could do more, and that's what really fired it off. It was ever since then it's been a wild ride. So now I've done, I think, well over 100 of them now. So
wow. Do you mainly sell local or do you also ship?
In the beginning, it was most of the time it was a local deal, just because I didn't know how to go about doing the shipping and stuff. How would you work around the freight companies when it has, you don't want anything to get damaged or it's expensive to ship it. Now that I've got some of these higher dollar ones where you're spending, 30 to 40 hours on them, where people are spending the money and it's a desired piece of art, I guess, in some cases, people will spend the money to ship them. So yeah, I've had, in the beginning, it was mostly local. It was just a quick grab it, throw a couple, just do a general paint job on it. Don't get too wild. And then from there, it just progressed on and on and on to where I'm at now, doing one-off themes. And uh, if you see the videos on my TikTok or something, you'll understand what it is. I mean, nothing is really factory spec restorations, because some of them, like, to find one that actually has all the parts in it is kind of rare. So what I enjoy about the challenge of it is you have to work with your hands and see the final product of what you want with what you have in front of you. Sometimes that's not as easy as it looks because, handles are broke or springs on the latches don't work, or a lot of people, the constant question is where I get my seals. Well, I usually have to come up with my own, or so they don't have a parts company for this stuff. So you kind of got to be good enough to work with what you have, and that's what I like about the challenge of it. So,
Wow.
um,
And so for some of the new listeners here who have not come across your Facebook or TikTok page, I'm gonna make sure I post all your links, because like when you all think of refrigerators, a lot of people may think of, your modern refrigerators with your freezer up top and, refrigerator down bottom or whatever. No, you are restoring like some old school vintage, like very old refrigerators, and it's kind of hard to describe, but I'm excited to.
30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s era refrigerators. Um, yeah.
And it is an amazing process with what you're doing with these refrigerators. So I'm super excited for people to come across your work. And so how do you actually find these refrigerators? Do you get them from auctions, estate sales, or do people reach out to you to restore
A
them?
little. In the beginning, when COVID was doing its thing, it actually kind of helped me because it forced, like, the social distancing thing forced everything to be online. So when I first started doing it, after, this would say like my first 10 of them I did. Obviously the first one I had on hand just because I had it. And then the second one, to find another one, it was actually on an estate sale that was online during COVID. Like I said, it wasn't even for sale. I just looked at the pictures online and I saw the refrigerator in the background of it, and I messaged the person. I said, "Hey, how much would you want for the refrigerator?" And then this was in the Michigan style basement, and it's hard to explain that. It's just basically a crawl space. And the lady just, got back with me. She goes, we have to get rid of everything in this house. If you can move it, you can have it. And I thought that was a score, because now I have zero input cost to this. If this is going to work, if it works at all or it's got life in it, great. Then that's a great start point. And then so I went and grabbed it. And so but that was the beginning. Now I get it from, marketplace, online auctions. There's like warehouse overstock stuff in some cases in different states that you can get it from.
Okay.
I've got it on my local stuff with the appliance stores. If somebody were to buy a new appliance and they have to get rid of an old one, if they end up with that era of a fridge, they contact me and I can do it that way. Some HVAC guys have contacted me on stuff. And now it's gotten to the point where they're seeking me out now. Like they realize what they have. Because if, like, some of the power companies and stuff, they have these, and at least in Michigan, if you were to get rid of that, the power company would pay you to get rid of it, to get a new appliance. I give them usually more money than the scrap cost would be for it. And so, but for me, if you're going to tear it apart anyway, if you can get them between the $50 to $175, that's a really good start, because it's a low input cost. And if you end up trying to find parts or stuff for it, or if it's straight up not going to work, um, you're not out very much. So there's always a little bit of a risk involved with it. But for me, I enjoy that risk. It's fun. Like I said, if you run it as a hobby and it happens to just turn into a business venture that is successful, that's awesome. I love the feeling. I don't know how to explain it. I get the same kick. Some guys, if you're a hot rod guy, it's like a barn find car.
Okay. Okay. Now walk us through the process of restoring one of these vintage refrigerators. Like what would you say is one of the most challenging steps? I heard you say earlier they don't make parts for them. Anything else that is challenging in restoring these?
Oh, there's not really a wiring code on some of that stuff. I mean, there's colors and stuff on the wiring and stuff, but some of them, when you find them as they are, there's really no rhyme or reason of where things are wired and stuff. So we use what I do when I grab one is I get it in my shop and I leave it there for a little bit to make sure that all the oil and stuff just levels out so you don't have a problem with the compressor if there's going to be one. And then I just try to start it, try to run it, try to figure out if it's going to be cold or stay cold or whatever the case might be. And I mean, there's some ways to get around them. If you have parts that are bad, like relays and stuff, you can actually get a universal relay to put in it to start one and run it, and with a more modern wiring setup. But like my biggest thing is just make sure that you wire it, to the best of your ability to make it work. I don't like to deal with having fire hazards in my shop very much. Likewise with anybody in their house. Especially when I have, like, at one point, I think 2 years ago, I had like 31 of these in the shop, and all of them ran, and people were blown out of the water. I let alone have more than five at a
Right,
time. I
right.
had 30 of them, and they all worked.
Wow.
So
Now, do you have a background in like HVAC or appliance repair?
no,
Do
this
what?
is this was one of those things where I just took it and ran with it because it was being successful. Um, if you really want to break it down, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, but I'm not an expert in anything. I've Even with the whole paint thing, I've been self-taught. I've been painting since I was 14, and even that was mostly like my family, where I come from up here. It was a family-owned farm up here for many years, and when I started my paint business, it was just the way that it had happened in my life as things were making changes, and it was primarily restorations on farm equipment and commercial vehicles for semis. Because if you look on the videos, the paint booth is quite large. People actually think it's a garage, but it was actually a vented paint booth at one time. And then since COVID, when all that stuff went down, I've moved it into refrigerators, and I make almost the same money as it would on a restoration for for vehicles. It's crazy. So, but I love it. It's okay with me. I'm doing the same thing of saving American made products to do that. So
Wow. And so when I do these interviews, I not only listen as the host, but I'm listening as a listener. So you're telling me you do not have a background in like HVAC and appliance repair.
nope.
This is just something that you just enjoy doing, and you've learned along the way. You turned a hobby into something that's actually bringing some profit and making people happy.
Yeah. Oh, the thing is if you
Hey,
can.
Next Big Flip family, I've got some exciting news. I'm hitting the road for the Next Big Flip Road Show. Over the next few weeks, I'll be visiting some of my amazing guests right in their element, from South Carolina to California and everywhere in between. We'll be thrifting, flipping, and capturing the behind-the-scene moments you don't get to hear in the studio. You'll get tips, tricks, and real-life inspiration straight from the people making their own Next Big Flip stories happen. Now is the perfect time to hit the subscribe button so you'll be the first to know when the very first episode drops. And don't worry, I'll still bring you great audio episodes for your listening pleasure. But now, you'll also get to see the stories, the smiles, and the flips that keep us all inspired. So get ready, because this journey is all about showing you that your next big flip might be closer than you think. Now let's pick back up with the conversation where Cody tells us that he enjoys accepting the challenge of not always having information and figuring things out along the way.
Oh, the thing is if you can. I like the challenge of not having information on stuff. I like figuring it out for myself. I think the thing that changes with me is I'm not really afraid to fail.
Okay.
It's I've the reason I got good at painting and stuff. I messed up a lot, and if you talk to a painter or a body man that does anything for a living like that, if they say they never screwed up, they're lying. I've messed up so many times. And the thing is like you just sand it back down and you do it again. And it's not that big a deal if you really just understand what you're doing. And I think that's the reason why, if you look at some of my stuff, the patina stuff,
Yeah.
or the old rustic look kind of took off that way, is I was able to go backwards and think of like what it looked like beforehand. And, I like when you're fixing a mistake and you have to sand it down, the layers on layers on layers that you end up getting, and how to make that look presentable that's a trick, in my opinion. I've seen some people, and nobody really does it the same way. My way that I like to do it is more, I would say, cartoonish, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
I don't really try to make it look authentic. I just try to make it the theme, or like make it loud and exaggerated, because I mean, it is fake after all. It's just, you know, just the generalized theme of it. I'll just call it that. So,
That makes sense. Now you said you're doing this restoration, but with a twist. What would you say the twist in that you add to these restorations that makes your work stand out?
well, very few of these actually end up looking like they were stock. You like from factory stuff. Most of them get painted in a way that's like automotive. Like I said, I'm a big hot rod guy, or muscle car or farm equipment stuff. Most of them are generalized brands from over the years that you could find in America. A lot of them are, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, John Deere, International Harvester, Peterbilt, Kenworth. I mean, the list goes on and on of stuff that I've actually done. I just finished up a Texaco one this last night. It'll be
Nice.
up on my page here soon. And
Wow.
I mean, it looks like I took a 1936 Frigidaire and made it look like a Texaco oil can from back in the day. And it came out really nice. I'm excited about it.
Now, do you ever collaborate with other artists or designers, or do you design all of these yourself?
So being on TikTok and that little world that I've kind of created for myself there, I've got into meeting some insanely cool people. And one of my hobbies is kind of finding some of the small businesses that are on there and trying to incorporate it into my work. And so there's a guy, his name is Ryan, and he runs Racked Audio on TikTok. And with me, we collab every once in a while. He takes ammo cans from well, some of them are new and some of them are old and rustic and stuff. But he puts Bluetooth speakers into them, and he does custom painted themes like I do. And once in a while, when I get one where the customer either I have an idea or a customer will ask for one, they want a matching speaker to go with their man cave refrigerator, so they can just hook their phones up and drink beer and listen to music. So, and
Wow.
that's been fun. I've enjoyed doing that. It's kind of fun when you get two people that I wouldn't say are like-minded, understand the process, but it's in completely different niches, and then they complement each other, and that's really cool for me.
Yeah. And so Racked Audio is the
All right,
Ryan's
yep,
name. And I'm always writing down names because I will be reaching out to him behind the scenes. As we was talking off air earlier, me possibly coming to your area and doing a road show and just, capturing some of this content on video. Hey, I might as
sure.
well do two birds with one stone. And so I'm gonna reach out to Ryan and try to get a podcast with him and just get some more content for, your subscribers so they can actually see you working and just get, a more behind the scenes look. Now,
Yeah,
speaking of, go ahead.
you'll
I'm
enjoy
sorry.
that one too, I promise.
Really? Okay. I'm excited. I'm over here. I'm pumped. Now, what inspired you is one thing to do what you're doing, but what actually inspired you to start sharing your journey online with others?
Well, man, I don't really know how the whole thing started, but back when Facebook was kind of my main way of running a business online, um, I hated the whole idea of having, the before and after pictures, because there's so much more work that goes in behind the scenes that you can't see. And so if you had a video of something just real quick, just like show what it looked like in the beginning and then show the end product and a little bit of what goes on in the middle of it, then I think people would understand a little bit more of what goes into making the finished product. So that's when the TikTok thing kind of took off, because you could edit your own videos, real quick 60-second clips. Well, at the time it was like 15 to 30 seconds for me. But that got the push, if you could hook somebody with an attention thing and throw some music on it, then great. And then take that video, drop it on my Facebook page, and then people are starting to follow that. And all of a sudden I got looking at the TikTok page and I'm like, there's more followers on my TikTok than there is on my Facebook page. What's going on with this? And so I did a couple more, and all of a sudden I look at it, and I'm like, man, I'm really pushing on like 50,000 people here. And that's kind of cool. And I didn't really think that anybody would actually find that entertaining. Well, then all of a sudden I get, the niche between the section between like 30,000 and 50,000 people. They were all searching you out. They were all looking for, they were, supporting you in your endeavor of, getting better at what you're doing. And there wasn't really any negative comments on it or stuff, suggestions and stuff. And it was fun. It was awesome. And then once you got over the crest, you had your first viral video at a couple million views, and that was terrifying because I'm like, this is a thing now. Like, this is apparently where we're at. But back then in COVID, when the money was a big issue, there wasn't really people spending a lot of money. Like, you had the ability to make money online as an entertainment kind of thing, and that's pushing your product. So you're like, this is what it's going to be. But I used to be embarrassed about doing refrigerators. I'm like, I'm a paint guy, and I'm painting these 80-year-old appliances. This is ridiculous. And having to explain yourself to the people on the street, like, that's what you do? You paint refrigerators, really?
Right.
But if you look at look at what it is now, you're like, oh, that makes a lot more sense now. But yeah, that's the inspiration behind it was kind of just by mistake. I was using it as a video before and after thing, and it just happened to become an entertaining thing, and I really have a lot of fun with it. That's really all it is, and I don't do the same thing twice. I don't like repeating stuff. I mean, yeah, you'll see some some of the same brands and stuff, but like very rarely do I do the same model number. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at something like that that's not intended to have that same finished product that you have, and then just blowing it out. Doing your best to break the internet. We'll call it that way.
And for those of you all who may be wondering, he had mentioned being at around 30,000 followers. Well, now he's about 10 times that. He's got about 345,000 followers on TikTok. And so when I tell you, I'm so thankful that you replied back and allowed me to have this interview with you. I just like to say thank you. And so as we talk more about the refrigerators, how do you, some people may wonder, like, how do you determine the resale value of these refrigerators, and what type of buyers are actually interested in these?
Well, some of them, I sell. If I don't have an idea for it, I will drop it on my page. I just started a website here a couple weeks ago, so it's a very rough thing. But hopefully that it kind of moves into. I'll have a gallery of older ones, and someone can pick one that they like, and then
What's
I'll
the
just pick a
website?
theme and paint it. Yeah, but as an untouched piece.
Okay. Do you have that the website that you can just shout
it's
out
Wessels Custom. Yeah, WesselsCustomPaint.com. That's what it is.
and Wessels is Wessels custompaint.com.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. I'm sorry.
And
you can go ahead.
I'm still kind of messing with that to try to figure out the best way to do it. But the thing is you only find a certain amount of these things at a time. You know, I talk about having 30 of them, but that took me, 5 years to acquire a lot of them. And you can only do so many at a time because I'm only one guy. And this isn't actually my full-time job. I actually have another one with my dad, and we deal with farm equipment as a dealership. So, like I said, I'm trying to control the push because there's a lot of people that have wanted the piece, but you only have one of them.
Right.
And like I said, it's anywhere from 10 hours to 40 hours into a piece like this. And the resale value, I mean, I try to at least get my time and material cost out of it. I've done quite well at doing that and being efficient at it now. The first startup process, I mean, like I said, you can't be afraid to fail. You don't know what you're going to get. Or the end piece, if it's desirable. I've actually sat on a couple for a couple of years and then got sick of looking at them and then repainted them. So that's just part of the game, and that's okay. But like I said, I try to find desirable pieces that are untouched, and if somebody wants to buy them, they can buy that piece, and then they tell me what they want, and then we just deal with time and material. And like I said, I won't sell a fire hazard. That cost is going to be included if it needs a compressor or anything that would go along that lines, and a service fridge, something that anybody could safely have in their house. I push that a lot. So
Nice. Now, what's one flip that you may have felt like was your next big flip, and then you've done over 100, so you may not be able to pinpoint one. And when I mean next big flip, not necessarily something that brought you the most profit, but a flip that really kept you in the game, where you said, you know what, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm not going to throw in the towel after all.
So, and this is just off of my personality. I obsessed about like some generalized theme. It would be cool to have a car from the era of the fridge and the manufacturing stuff. And so the one story that sticks out in my head that was a lot of fun was a friend of mine, and he's got me a ton of them. He actually he has a business where he guts foreclosed houses. And so if he goes into an area and there's an old refrigerator there, he'll call me up and say, "Come get this thing," and we make a deal and stuff. And it was about a 45-minute drive from my shop, which wasn't a big deal. I've gone 2 hours before to go get one that was in good shape. But anyway, he says, "Bring a shovel with you," and I thought he was nuts. I thought he was joking, but I did. I just threw it in there as a joke, and I got there. And the place that he was working at had an old style hip roof barn that they used to raise Clydesdale horses in. And I would go into the fridge, and we had to literally dig this thing out of the dirt floor in it. And I thought, like, I drove 45 minutes here for a flop. There's no life in this thing. There's no way this is going to work. And it was waterlogged and gross. And you opened it up, and it had all the veterinary supplies for the horses in it, because that's what they used what they had back then.
Right.
And it worked out fine. You're not going to use a new fridge for it, or one inside the house for everyday living. So, but like I got it back in the back of the truck, and I took it to my shop, and I didn't even wash it off. I just like, okay, if this thing is gonna live, we're gonna try it. And I plugged it in, and the stupid thing took off, and it ran like a top. I didn't even touch it, and I'm like, 40 years buried in a floor. I mean, like, not just buried; it was 2 feet deep, because it was in the side of a hill, and like when the house was abandoned at the time, all the doors were open, and like through the years of the Michigan winters and stuff, it had been at the bottom of the hill, and all the water had pushed all the dirt into this fridge. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But that was an awesome story. And to this day, like, I contacted the guy last year and asked if it was still working. Go, yeah, it keeps the coldest beer on the planet.
It's like they built stuff to last back then.
Oh man,
it is crazy.
Why can't they do it now?
Right. They're like, no, we needed to break down every 3 years, so you buy another one. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So speaking of you calling that guy to see if it still worked, has any customer ever shared a story about how you restored a fridge that became like the centerpiece of their home?
That one specifically was a Firestone refrigerator, and when I did that, I painted it to look like I put a Ford logo on it, kind of just because Ford and Firestone have history behind it. If you look it up, that was a pretty good centerpiece, from what I understand. A couple of them since then, like I've done a Super B one that went to a collector. The Super B being a car related one, Dodge, a Mopar guy. And then a Yanko Camaro one went to an original owner. Apparently he drove his Yanko Camaro off the lot, and I wasn't told if it was color matched or not, but I know it's close. But I painted a GM Frigidaire one to look like a Yanko Camaro with the stick shift and everything on it.
Nice.
And that one was probably my favorite, because it was awesome. It wasn't blemished or nothing, and I have silver leaf on the logo, and everything just, it's how I wanted my fridge to look, but he offered me enough money for it. I mean, I let it go. To this day, I still regret that, because it was one of my best ones.
Wow.
So,
they say everything has a cost. So,
I know, and that's okay, but
yeah,
not like thing, I can't do another one.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, good thing is you are the artist. You can absolutely make another one.
Yep.
Now, you flipped quite a few of these along the way over the last few years. So, of course, you've learned a lot. Now, is there something that you wish you might have known earlier during your flipping journey that would have saved you?
So me being a car guy, I'm so used to DC current, like, power and ground. If I were to go back and do it again, I would have basically forced myself to figure out, how the homes are wired, because these things are wired with a common ground, or not even a common ground. It's just, it's got to start or run in a common wiring system there. And then just the general understanding of that. Now I'm getting to the point where I can see the problems before I even get the fridge. Most of the time now, the little 5-cent hook things that keep the cord from getting pulled too tight, if you were to move the fridge and it would have been plugged in, those are a massive problem because will actually cut into the cord and ground the fridge. And so if you grab the handle and you get a good jolt of electricity there, that's usually where your problem is. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Partly because, like I said, if I was afraid of the wiring thing, I wouldn't do it. I would, make somebody else do it. Or I'm like, you can buy the fridge, but you got to wire it yourself. That was, a long time ago. And since then, I do all my own work. But there was always that feeling of, I lost a lot of sleep at night thinking, like I just got this guy this fridge. I didn't touch the wiring. I'm really, really nervous about it. I hope it doesn't burn down. But I explained it when I bought it, hey, I just painted it. The rest is on you. And after working with them enough now, you're like, man, I should just rewire everything. And I tell people that to this day when they ask me like how to do it and stuff. Just understand what you're doing. Like I said, don't be afraid to fail, but don't burn your house down in the process. That's a big thing.
Nice. And that's a great safety tip. Any other mistakes beginners should avoid when dealing with bulky items like old refrigerators like this?
If you're on the marketplace, and this is just off of my experience, if you're on Facebook Marketplace and you find these things, most of the time on people there, I've learned those guys are looking for the quick $100, which is great. If you get a fridge for $100 and it works, awesome. Then more power to you. That's great. But like I said, those people have usually tampered with that fridge to try to figure out whether or not it's going to work, and they've wired it wrong. So you never really know what you're going to get when you go through Marketplace. If you get like an online auction or an estate sale one or stuff like that, usually the estate sale ones are what I really like because that fridge has sat there for a long time and never moved. And they just took a picture of it and put it online, and it is what it is. Those are the ones you favor. Also, like if you're trying to find a fridge, you don't normally find a lot in big cities just because stuff changes so fast. I like to find it in tourist areas. My wife is actually from Houghton Lake, Michigan, and so I go have family there, but that's a very big tourist area. And she hates it when I take the truck up there and bring two back all the time. But it works out great because you get up there and it's like old school cabins everywhere, old style vacation homes where people are renovating their old cabin and stuff, and that's in it. That's where you can find them usually. And again, that's usually they've worked till you got there, and then you're the first one to move it in years. I try to favor stuff like that. I don't necessarily want something that somebody else has been messing with because, like I said, there's always a fire risk and stuff like that. So
nice. So that's some great advice. And one thing I believe is there is enough of this business to go around for everybody. Have you come across anybody else locally who may be doing the same thing that you're doing? You don't have to say any names, but I'm just curious. Have you seen anybody?
Like I've had people that have done the one and two, onesie twosie stuff. I have met very few people that have repeated the process and done as many as I have. And that's not even me trying to brag. I just got good enough where I can consistently do them on a regular basis.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that will get them working correctly and then ship them to the next person. They don't do the paint thing. And like I said, there's a niche for everybody. And if you're not a paint guy and you just want a nostalgic vintage refrigerator appliance, then
right.
I would, if I could find a person that would do that and sell one that was working correctly and I'd just be the paint guy, I would absolutely do it. So
do you see yourself doing this full time ever, or do you think you'll always still keep another job?
That's always been in the back of my head. But I've enjoyed it as a hobby so much. I don't know if I would hate it. I shouldn't say hate it. I would always do it. But if I had to do it as a full-time gig all the time, I don't know if I would have the same enjoyment with it. Because, like there's no schedule on when I get one wrapped up or stuff I don't have to go in there and force one through all the time for customers and stuff. I'm pretty open with people being like, this is what's going on. I'll get it when I get it. As long as you have a flexible schedule, I'll work with you and we'll make it right in the end. That I love that deal. And most of the time people are really good about it. If I had to base my entire living off of it, it would be kind of hard. yeah, I make good money at it for the most part, but again, you work for every dime that you ever make, and like I said, I like the challenge of that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I would do a full dime gig out of it. And my normal job, being a farm equipment dealer, I'll just call it that. We're actually, if you want to look it up, we're premier precision planting dealers up here. Me and my dad. It's just me and him that work on stuff up here, and we have quite a footprint on what we do. So in the springtime and stuff like that, in the winter, prepping people for the next year, I don't necessarily have a lot of time for it. And I enjoy that just as much as I enjoy the fridges too.
Yeah.
So I got to play that dance all the time. And a lot of guys understand that up here. So,
Yeah, I understand totally. I cut hair as a hobby, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. I have 3 sons. Now I enjoy cutting hair, but I don't enjoy being a barber. If that makes sense. Like I like to just
yeah,
cut
no,
people's
I
hair for fun,
understand that.
but if I have to cut your hair every week on the schedule, I would hate it. So I totally understand
Right.
what you're saying. And as we get ready to land the plane, do you have any advice that you would give someone who may be hesitant about starting a side hustle, whether in doing what you're doing or painting cars or just a side hustle in general? What's one small step someone could take this week to get started?
You got to put one foot in front of the other. Like I said, I used to be embarrassed about doing this kind of thing, just because, like, yeah, if you were to explain it to the general person off the street, you're a refrigerator painter. But if you enjoy it so much that you look forward to the next one, like my thing is, keep it fun. Take small steps in learning, and then it'll just snowball into the next one, and your next one will be better. And like I said, the second that I quit impressing myself, I'll quit. Most of the stuff that I do, it's a little bit of an obsession. Like I'll take the theme and I'll run with it until I'm happy with it. Don't ever sell something that you're just not happy with. Go the extra mile and make it something that you're proud of, and it'll take care of itself after that.
Nice, nice. So put one foot in front of the other, keep it fun, and take small steps in learning. Next Big Flip Podcast.